We lived in the Bronx, all seven of us kids and my single mom. It was mid January, and a huge snowstorm hit. The snow was so thick, the highways came to a complete stop. We lived a half a block from the highway. The darkest of night was approaching. There were several cars stuck with people and their families and or pets inside. My mom stood up and said to my brother, "I will open my house to the stranded people on the highway," she said. "Please go and invite them to our house." We had 13 families come. Our living room was covered in sleeping bags, blankets, and pillows. In the morning, we had 3 pots of coffee, one huge pot of hot chocolate, bacon, eggs, and warm French bread. Everyone showed such gratitude. My mom's act of kindness and humanity was so profound to me. She showed us all the selflessness of helping others. This is a letter. It's part of an article from Reader's Digest about Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day, everyone. I know Mother's Day as of now has passed, but it's never too late to celebrate the mothers all around us. So, welcome to another episode of Lush Life, No Labels, a podcast about living your most lush life through exploring the struggles and joys of self improvement. And today we will focus on relationships, specifically with our mothers. I'm your host, Fatu. Before we move on, be sure to follow this podcast wherever you're listening so you can keep up with my new episodes, and share this podcast with anyone else who you think might enjoy it. Today's topic is a pretty big one for me and not one that I've really talked about on here before. Reason being, it's a pretty sensitive topic for me. I won't dive into any of the complications really about it. The goal of this episode is really to just say thank you to my mother. We have certainly been through a lot in my however many years, 3 decades of living on this planet. And I guess the PSA really is that although relationships can be complicated, and I can certainly say that my relationship with my mother is complicated, I also want to remind myself of some of the really positive things that happened when I was growing up, and really just reflecting on a number of different moments in my life where I really felt love and support from my mother. And this is the second time of me trying to record this episode because the first time I tried, I started crying. Like I said, this is a pretty intense topic for me. So I will try to get through this whole thing without falling apart or bawling in tears. So follow along with me. I hope everyone had a good Mother's Day, whether you spent time with your mother this past holiday, whether you were able to just chat with her, whether you are maybe low or no contact. There are so many different situations, I'm sure, that we all have with our mothers. So I really want to take this time to just reminisce a bit on my mother, given that the title of this episode is A Love Letter to My Mother. So let's dive right in. Just to hear a little bit about her, she grew up in a military family in Guinea-Conakry in West Africa. And a military family, as in her dad, her uncles, a lot of people were in the military. She was the eldest daughter of 4 children, which certainly comes with its challenges. I won't dive all the way into that right now, but I have a lot to say about the challenges of an eldest daughter for sure. And my mother was the daughter of the head of the Air Force at the time, It was my grandfather. Growing up, my mom was really close to her mom and dad, loved them, they loved her, they got along really, really well. And when my mom grew up, she became a flight attendant. And she was a flight attendant for over 10 years. I remember when I was little, she would bring me gifts from all of her trips that she would do to other regions of the country or just other countries in general. And I remember that even though my mom was a flight attendant, she wasn't around all the time. I would just remember me and my grandma, also love her, RIP. Me and my grandma would sit outside on the different nights on the steps and just look up at the stars. And at the time in Guinea, there wasn't a lot of pollution like there is in the US. So you could really see the stars at night. So we would just look up and my grandma would say, "Oh, look at the stars. That's where your mom is." And I would be so happy. And I was so proud of her because she has had to support her family for a very long time. And her father unfortunately passed away when I was little. And so my mom really had to step up and take care of her mom and her younger siblings, which I really cannot imagine what that was like. But she had a lot of determination and a lot of resilience. Moving on, eventually, my mom and I moved to the US to be with my dad. And moving to America was really tough for her. She left her whole family. Like I said, she was very close to her family, especially close to her mother, who she would describe as her best friend, which I always thought was really cute because in observing them growing up, yes, they definitely were really, really close. Even when we moved to America, my mom was constantly on the phone with my grandma, which to me was just so, so sweet. And a great thing for me to see. Like I said, it was pretty tough for her moving to an unfamiliar place, essentially with all strangers. She did not speak the language. We spoke French and a few other languages, but we did not speak English at all. Everything was so different here from what it was back home. And of course, she made the decision for herself, but also specifically for me. And I will always be grateful to her for giving me that chance. And I just remember once we moved here and growing up, my mom supported me a lot. And honestly, I would say too, she faced a lot of fears, a lot of her fears in order to support me and help me get to where I am today. Especially because she also became a single mom of two earlier on. And again, I can't imagine moving to a completely new country, leaving your whole family, and then less than 2 years later, you become a single mom of two in this strange place. And the level of strength and bravery that my mom had for that, I don't even know that I would have that if I were her. Mind you, this all happened when she was less than 30 years old. There's no way that in my late 20s, I cannot even imagine having one kid, but having two kids and then moving across the world. I just can't even describe the courage that this woman had. One memory that I have of growing up is my mom always made sure that I was dressed up in a way where I could hold my head up high, even when I was surrounded by people and, other students who had more money than us. I remember in middle school, every Friday, we had to do professional dress. The rest of the days were just a uniform. And even though we didn't have the money, she'd, try to get those store credit cards so that she could pay for these suits for me so that I could show up, and represent myself well. She never wanted me to feel like I was less than, even with our financial status. And it really helped me with my self esteem when I was surrounded by my peers. because I never felt like I was less than them. And that is thank you to my mom. Another thing actually that's really funny is I ended up going to boarding school for high school, which I've mentioned on here, but it took me a long time to convince my mom, an African immigrant lady, to let her first child, eldest daughter, go away and live somewhere, literally in high school, by the way. So this is like from age 13 on. I had to convince this lady over a couple of years, and then she finally was like, okay, you can apply here. And funny thing about applying, my school counselor at the time actually told me to my face that I shouldn't even apply to this boarding school because I probably don't have a chance of getting in. Obviously, I did not stand for that. I went to my mom and I told her, hey, this lady said that I'm not going to get in and she's trying to discourage me to even apply. My mom rolled up to the school, went to talk to that lady. I don't know what she told her, but basically, she told me that she told that lady to not discourage me. I will apply to this school and I will get in. And that lady should not be saying those types of things. She's a counselor. She should be supporting us, not trying to take us down. I loved that. The day that I got into this school, yeah, my mom was always rolling up to the school and she would chat with my school principal, the teachers. They all had a very good rapport. And she rolled up with the papers and showed that lady who didn't want me to apply and was like, look, it was a joyous day. I just remember my mom was so happy that day. I was really happy that day. And we both knew what it took for me to get into that school. Actually, there was another time where I was competing for a school GOB, just a little thing. And the teacher of the class said that I wouldn't win, even though I kept winning the smaller sort of classroom ones. And then once you win, it was sort of a tournament. Once you win, then you go to the school one. And she said that I wouldn't win. My mom also rolled up to the school. And I think she made that lady cry. I don't know what she told her, but that lady left me alone from then on because she was really mean to me before. But it's just things like that where my mom didn't make a scene. She is very direct. She'll just say something, but she's never rude about it. And it was really great for me to feel so supported when other adults were trying to put me down. My mom would never stand for that. She would never stand for that. And those are just some really happy memories of mine that she stood up for me. And actually, speaking of when I was even going to high school, my mom didn't know how to drive a car. When we were back home, she didn't know how to drive a car. Even when we moved here for those few years, she didn't know how to drive a car. However, she started learning how to drive a car. And when I started applying to these schools, some of the interviews would be really far away, like 3 hours drive, 2 hours drive. And she was really scared about that because she'd never driven so far, especially in a very unknown place. But she decided, you know what, let me go back and take more driving lessons, even though she was scared, because she wanted to be able to drive me to these interviews. When we moved here, we had a green card. And then when I was in high school, we realized, oh, it's actually going to be a bit difficult for me to get help or financial aid because we are not citizens. And even though my mom didn't go to college in the US or anything like that, she decided, you know what, I'm going to become a citizen because Fatu, was under 18 at that time. So if she became a citizen, then I would automatically become a citizen. She studied for months, months, months for this test. And again, she hadn't been in school for a long time. So it was a bit difficult for her. She would put on these, back in the day, there was these radios. So she would put in these DVDs in the car that would go over the facts of, oh, Lincoln was this president. Oh, George Washington was the first president. All these facts that you need to know that frankly, they try to say that immigrants should know, even though a lot of Americans don't know these facts. But I digress. She did such a great job. We went to her test. She aced it. And again, this was something that she did for me to make sure that I was set up for success. And frankly, if she hadn't done some of these things, like standing up for me, like facing her fears, I could say that my life probably would not be the way it is. And some of these great experiences that I've had in life, I probably would not have had. So, again, I love my mom for that. And I thank her for that. I remember too, one time I got really sick, like on my deathbed sick, and she never left my side. I was in the hospital for over a week. My mom was with me every single second of all of those days. Even when I would say, "Mom, you should go home and sleep," she'd say, "No, you're my baby and I will not leave you." Y'all, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I'm really teary-eyed right now. I'm going to try to get through the rest of this, I promise. And honestly, my tears are tears of joy. And after I got out of the hospital, it was actually really close time for my prom, but I'd lost all this weight because I was sick and I couldn't really fit into my prom dress. My mom actually had a prom dress custom made for me. I love shiny things. I love gold. It was this gold mermaid dress. Every single graduation I ever did, elementary, middle, high school, all of that, my mom made me custom clothes, custom made dresses that fit perfectly for me in the silhouettes that I liked. Again, my mom has really good fashion taste and she always makes sure that I look good. That is for sure. And she was definitely my first fashion guru. I'm going to give her that. Just continue on with some of these positive memories here. Don't worry, I just have a few left. Actually, for one of my applications to college, I remember there was an essay, and the essay was who do you look up to in history or who's someone that you would look up to. And I wrote it about my mom. And I said that my mom was my hero because I knew that her life has been difficult. And she certainly did not have as much support as I did, certainly. A lot of people let her down, and she tried really hard to not let me down, despite the complications of life. So I wrote this essay about her. I talked about my mom. I talked about the resilience that she has, the determination, the fact that she was able to pick herself up, the fact that she was even able to navigate all these very big life changes without her support. And her support was her family. She's very adaptable, especially with all these different changes that she experienced in life. She is very resilient. Like I said, she's someone who is willing to stand up to her fears and try to get over that. So even though she had anxiety over a number of those fears, she was willing to overcome those fears for herself, but also for her children, and specifically for me in these situations that I'm sharing with you guys. Also, like I said, would motivate. You are very smart. You are very capable. You can do anything that you put your mind to. That is something that my mom has always told me that. Even today, even with the complications of our relationship, always has told me if I put my mind to something, I'm always going to succeed at that. That has never changed. And it certainly helped me that she thinks those things of me. Even in the same vein, not just when I was growing up, but when I started working full time in these different roles, if I had an issue with a manager or a colleague and I would just be telling her about it, I'd ask for her advice and she would give it. She'd try to give me different solutions or advice on, oh, you should approach it this way, you should try to have this type of conversation, which was really helpful because she, of course, had work experience and had experiences where sometimes you run into conflict with a colleague. That's a very common thing that happens. So it was good that I could go to her for advice for that. When I was getting my first apartment where I lived alone, she gave me advice on that, especially because I was really nervous about it, of just my anxiety of living alone. And I was really nervous. And so she gave me really great advice during those types of times as well. And I remember we took a vacation to California, and she's never been to California, and she never really takes vacation either, just in all the times that we've been here. So it was really fun to be in the sun with her, walking around, seeing the sights. We did even one of those bus tours where you're on the bus all day and they go to different parts of the city. You can hop on, hop off, which was really cool. We went to the zoo, and it's so my mom's actually really funny, but she was so shook because we also did one of those things around the zoo where you go to each of the animal things, but then we went to where the flamingos were. And she said, "Girl, we need to get out of here because the flamingos were just out and about, just walking around." And she's like, "Wait a minute, what if one of them decides they want to peck me?" I said, "Girl, I don't know what to do with that." She said, "We need to get out of here." So, yeah, she was not a fan of those flamingos just being out and about, but she really enjoyed that time too, and she likes to take photos. So actually, it was helpful for me because I like to take photos and she likes to be in photos. So we had a lot of different photos. She brought all her outfits, Like I said, that lady is really good at dressing up and she's very stylish. So she was out here everywhere we went, by the way. Everyone was saying, "Oh, I love your beautiful outfit. Where did you get that? Where can I get that?" I said, "All right, girl." Because clearly I thought you looked like a bum. Meanwhile, she looked like the queen of wherever. Even in high school, actually, I now that I'm talking about that, whenever my mom would visit for parents weekend or whatever it is, she would show up and show out all these parents. Yeah, I went to a predominantly white school. And so it's not like these people really saw people like my mom or people dressing up like my mom. And so she always, everywhere I go with this woman, she gets compliments on the way that she dresses and all that. So she's a cute lady. She's a cute lady. I'll give her that. But yeah, this trip to California was really fun. And overall, watching her relax was a gift. We would watch TV together. I growing up, we would always watch TV. We'd watch things like TLC was our thing. We would watch TLC, all those marriage, Say Yes to the Dress, all these marriage ones. We would watch action movies. She loves action movies. That's her favorite genre of movie. She loves watching soccer, things like that. So we would just sit and like judge people basically, just judge people on these TV shows and how ridiculous they were, and so it was a really nice time seeing my mom just relax for that amount of time, which was a gift for me because growing up, she was pretty much like just stressed a lot. And I'm happy that I was able to do that for her and that we had that time with just the two of us because it certainly was a long time since just me and her could be together for an extended amount of time. So that's my love letter to my mom. I'm really happy that I did this. I cut out all the parts where I was crying, y'all, but I'm really happy about who I am today. And I've been able to get to where I am today because of my mother. So happy Mother's Day, everyone. Like I said, we all have different relationships with our mothers. Some of us talk to our mothers every single day, besties. Some people are low contact or no contact, just based on the complicated relationships or situations that they've been through with their mothers. Unfortunately, some people's mothers have passed away and they're no longer here with us. So I just shared these positive memories and moments with my mom, really as a reflection for me. I do want to thank her. I am who I am today, and I've been able to get to where I am today because of my mother. And I will always be grateful for that. And I will always remember that. So I just want to say thank you to my mom and that I love you. I don't have any reflections today. I kind of just winged this one, but let me know if y'all like this episode. Leave me some comments with some positive memories of you and your mom, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Thanks for listening to another episode of this here podcast, Lush Life No Labels. Cheers to your lush life, and see you later.